Hello world, it's Austin. Let's talk about being transgender and Christian. I'm coming to you this week with a little bit of a shorter video because I'm working on a big secret project that I can't tell you about yet, but I wanted to leave you with some encouragement as we get through this week together. So let's talk about the concept of sin. Surely something I can get through in like 3 minutes, right? But let's just bust it down to like its very basic components, right? We usually think of sin as something that we did that we shouldn't have done, or something that we didn't do that we should have done. Sometimes we might even think of sin in the concept of like belief and theology, like how the first commandment says that we shall have no other God but God, right? Breaking that would be sort of a belief commandment type of sin. So when we sin, what happens to our relationship with God? Some people say that when we sin, God turns away from us because God is so holy that God can't bear to be around anything imperfect, like us, for instance. But this whole idea of God pushing us away or moving away from us doesn't make any sense in the context of the story of Jesus. Jesus, who intentionally came down and lived among people in like the dirt and sickness and, the worst of people as well as the best of people, God wanted to know intimately what it's like to be human and what it's like to be with us. Plus, in the Gospel of John, chapter 6, verse 37, Jesus says, "Anyone who comes to me, I will never drive away." So first of all, before we even go any farther, take comfort in that knowledge that God will never push you away. God will never walk away from you and say like, "No, I don't want you anymore." God doesn't do that. Another way that people understand the consequences of sin is like our walking away from God, right? Like we know the rules of this game, but we decide that we don't like the rules, and so we take our toys and we go home. This makes more sense to me. Like when Jesus says that we're supposed to love our neighbor as ourselves, if I decide that my neighbor is a jerk and therefore I can act like a jerk to him, right? That is intentionally me walking away from what Jesus said and what God would want. So that's the bind trans folks are in, because some Christians think that by being ourselves, by dressing in clothes that we're comfortable in, and by using names and pronouns that fit us, and by generally trying to live healthy, honest lives, we are somehow walking away from God. But here's the thing, Jesus told us exactly how to stay close to him, and he never mentioned gender identity or gender expression or clothes or names or changing our bodies or anything like that. In what we often call Jesus' farewell speech in John chapter 15, verses 9 through 14, Jesus says, "As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you and your joy may be complete. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. No one has a greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you." So that's how you stay close to God. You abide in Jesus' love by loving other people like Jesus loved us. And if you do that, Jesus says you're coming to him and he will never drive you away. Faith and concepts like these are so much bigger than we can even think about or understand or explain, but they're important too. I want to leave you with the knowledge that if you are seeking God, if you are moving towards God by trying to love others as Jesus loved us, Jesus isn't going to drive you away. Not if you've really, really messed up, and certainly not if you're just trying to be who God made you to be. So don't forget that this week, okay? You are loved. Don't forget that God loves you, and don't forget that we need to keep loving other people as hard as we can. We're going to screw up, but God's going to be there with us when we screw up, and God's going to be there when we try again. Don't forget that the Bible tells us that nothing can separate us from God's love. Alright, so have a good week, friends, and we will see you back here next Wednesday. Peace.